I
Oh,
am, and we're live, Eve. We are
oh
live. Just the
boy,
two
on
of us
this.
for now.
Oh no, just the two of us. Oh boy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just so unfortunate for you. I'm so happy to be with
uh,
you, but it's not a
yeah,
share. It's not a shared sentiment, it seems, but it's okay. It's okay. I'll get you. I get
nonsense,
it.
nonsense. I'm in a good mood. I got a lot of sleep. I slept for 11 hours last night, so I am actually in a
Ah,
phenomenal mood.
wow. Okay, nice. That's new. It doesn't
Oh, it's,
happen very
it was
often.
so. No, it was so good. Oh my gosh, I was in. I don't know. I was just in the best part of my mood.
What did you do this weekend for you to be very, very tired like that?
Oh, well, no, it was I had to do my weird blood pressure test on Thursday, and
Oh, okay.
it's a long story. And anyway, that thing goes off every 45 minutes during the night. It like does the squeezy thing, and that obviously wakes you up because it's like cutting the circulation off of your arm. This is my good story. This is what our
Uh,
listeners really tune in for.
okay.
So anyway, I didn't sleep, and then it was too hot to sleep, and then finally I said last night, I was like, to hell with this, I'm gonna take NyQuil and drink a beer.
Okay. Good. At least now you're 100% for the pod. Guys, I know for all the listeners that are here, you know the drill. We're just sharing everything on all the platforms before we start. We're going to start in the next few seconds. It's not going to be too long. I should be done in the next few seconds. The only thing that I can tell you about my weekend is that at last we're having some good weather in Montreal. At last, so I made
Mm-hmm.
sure to go and to to visit a few parks with my son. Went to the beach, to Aka Beach with my son, so it was really nice.
Oh,
So yeah, that's
fab.
what I did. So let's start. I don't know if you're ready, Eve. Well, I think we can start right
I'm
away.
born ready. Let's go.
Perfect, guys. So share the podcast, guys. You can go ahead and we'll launch the countdown in the next in 1, 2, 3. Let's do it. Hello, everybody, and it's me today in the absence of Samuel Savy that will be animating the show. And this week, we're going to start first of all with a preview of the game versus the Los Angeles Galaxy. Right after, we'll go ahead and we'll try to analyze the amazing victory of CF Montreal in Seattle. And afterwards, we'll review Olivier Renard mid-season press conference. That and a lot more on episode 89 of The Ball is Round. And as usual, yes, Sam is not here today, but I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Eve Powell. Hey, Eve, how are you
Hello.
today?
I'm alive, hanging in there. Got a good night's sleep, as anyone who tuned in bright and early heard. So overall, pretty good, pretty good. How are you,
Great,
Hattie?
great. I'm great. I'm great. I'm so happy and thrilled to receive today and to have as a guest Josh from Corner of the Galaxy podcast. If you don't know Corner of the Galaxy podcast, it's really one of the best podcasts around MLS, around the team in MLS out there. So, Josh, thanks a lot for being here today.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and your words are too kind. I appreciate that.
Great, great. So tell me a bit about your pod. How long have you been recording? Your story with the Galaxy and everything.
Yeah, we started the podcast back in 2009. So we're at like 950, 960 episodes total since then. So we should hit about 1,000, maybe right towards the end of the season,
Wow.
or maybe before the calendar year switches over. which will be a lot of fun. So we're looking forward to that. But basically, we do 2 live shows a week on Mondays and Thursdays. It's a great time. Have a bunch of different co-hosts that we lean on, and I've been covering the Galaxy basically since that 2009. Been in the press box since 2012, and just really enjoy watching the LA Galaxy and trying to clue everybody into all the little intricate details that I can bring, whether it's talking with Greg Vanney or Chris Klein or any of those guys. So it's a good time. I enjoy it. It's my hobby. So I better enjoy it. Otherwise I wouldn't keep doing it. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And it's our hobby too, and we're really enjoying doing that. But you know what? We're not even at the 100th episode. It's going to come this year, very, very soon. We're now at episode 89. But we hope that one day we'll be able to say, and we'll reach 1,000, and we'll be able to say, you know what, we're not, we didn't go as far as Josh yet, but you know what, we're following in your footsteps. I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, it all starts with one, and then you do another one, and another. How do you do 1,000 shows? One at a time. That's the answer.
Yeah. Exactly. So let's talk about the Los Angeles Galaxy. Okay. Let's start with a very simple one. Okay, how big is the frustration of fans knowing that the most title franchise in MLS history has only made the playoffs only once in the last 5 years? So tell me a bit about that, because a lot of fans here in Montreal are not really patient,
right,
and very pessimistic. So just tell me a bit more about how how it works.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think fans at any team are not patient and pessimistic whenever their team's not playing well. When you're playing well, and I was there all through the LA Galaxy's title runs in 2011, 2012, and 2014. Life is pretty good. There's not too much to worry about. You have a pretty good team to watch, and you enjoy it, and you expect a certain level of performance. And quite honestly, since Bruce Arena left and since 2017, that level of performance, even that level of detail and the level of expectation has plummeted, and rightfully so. I mean, at one point, the LA Galaxy had one of the greatest footballers on the face of this earth in Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and he only got them to the playoffs once. Probably should have been twice, by the way, but so things happen on the last day of the season. But all those things we said, yeah. Oh yeah, it's been some wild rides, absolutely. Especially last year, the Galaxy should have been in the playoffs. And then the handball that wasn't called in the RSL Sporting Kansas City game, and they went back on the other side, and RSL scored.
Right.
So I was the first person in the press box to scream and shout, because I was watching the game through a window. I was watching the other game through a window, and I was watching, and I said, "Hey, RSL just scored." I go, "The Galaxy are out of the playoffs," and it was like 3 minutes left in the game with the Galaxy, and all the writers stopped, and they were like, "Oh, we have to change our stories, right?" So everybody was changing their stories and stuff like that, and then you could see the bench sort of figured it out too, and just nuts. So crazy stuff. But getting back to the question, yeah, I mean, a tremendous amount of frustration. I think it comes, and maybe it's even a little higher, although I would like to think that any franchise really has this type of frustration when you have been playing, but it's higher because the Galaxy have won 5 MLS Cups. It's higher because they have sort of been at the highest of highs. And so with anything, whether that's football or love, the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, all of those things sort of come together. And I guess that's what makes it the experience that it is. I'll tell you, in 2009, the LA Galaxy went to an MLS Cup, lost on penalty kicks. And that was one of my favorite seasons to watch the LA Galaxy, as a matter of fact, even though they went there and they got there, but they didn't make it, right? That set up so many other things down the road. 2010 was an excellent year that sort of ended not quite the way. And then 2011, 2012, 2014, those MLS Cups came running. So I consider it all a part of the experience, right? The highs and the lows, but certainly looking at the organization, something has been broken for quite a while, and I don't know that they've rightly fixed that yet.
Perfect. Now, you talked a bit earlier about Greg Vanney. It's not a name that we like here in Montreal because he was an old foe for us here in Montreal. How well has his mentality and vision of football translated to your squad? Because it's a very particular vision.
It is a very particular vision. I would say that nobody is more in love with football and the way that he sees things than Greg Vanney. I mean, I don't say that as he's arrogant. It's just that he loves it. He's a football guy. That's all he wants to talk about. That's all he wants to do. we had a media availability yesterday, and there were a couple. It was me and another reporter who sort of showed up on a Saturday, because who wants to show up on a Saturday? It's a holiday weekend, right? Nobody's going to show up here in the U.S. So me and this reporter did, and so we went to go talk to Greg, and he's like, you know what? Just come on down to the TV studio in the stadium. Let's just talk there. Okay. Well, an hour and 20 minutes later, we were done talking, and
wow.
and he wasn't like, he was hanging up on phone calls. He was like, "Oh, I'll call him back later, not a problem," that type of thing. So when I say that he loves it and he loves talking about it, he loves analyzing it. He was joking around. I think there's a documentary on Amazon he was sort of pointing us to, and he said that, I forget who it was, but he said, the guy that they're looking at is like, there's always a problem to be solved whenever you're coaching. Like, it doesn't matter if things are going good. It doesn't matter if things are going bad. There's always a problem. In everything, there's a problem to solve. And he goes, so the brain never turns off. And he goes, I told my wife, that's me. That's why I'm like the way I am, because there's always a problem to be solved. And so I really enjoy Greg. I think he is quite possibly one of the best communicators about soccer and about what he's trying to do and how he's trying to do it, and I feel like he's pretty open about it. And so, yeah, I mean, the mentality, you can see that this team already, he was a defender. He has a defensive mentality in a lot of ways. This team is more or less 30 to 40 goals better over the last 2 years in terms of goals against, right? And so that's a huge improvement in a very short amount of time. From going one of the league's worst defenses to actually one of the top maybe 3, 4, 5 defenses in Major League Soccer.
Very interesting. And when you talk about defense, we know a couple of players of your defense with Nick Dupuis and Raheem Edwards that had very tough spells here in Montreal. But they're doing well. Short and tough. They're doing well in California right now. How important each of them has been for your team? And can you give us just a reason why they're so good with Greg Vanney?
I mean, it comes down to Raheem Edwards being a trusted person under Greg Vanney, right? So Raheem is probably the most important part to the LA Galaxy's offense and defense in a lot of ways. So a very important cog. You maybe point to Mark Delgado as the guy who is the central force that keeps everything together, but also somebody I'm sure you're familiar with, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
unfortunately,
I know. And so with Mark in there, but with Raheem on that left side, and he played, for the LA Galaxy's rivals, LAFC. And came over. Greg Vanney saw something in him, and when you talk to Raheem, he's like, Greg trusts me, and I trust him, and there's a real rapport there. And Greg was talking about how Raheem has basically hit the most minutes he's ever played in the season right now. Is in the middle of the season, he's now hitting his career highs in minutes right now, which means he's been getting to play every single minute of every game. And while that's probably not ideal in the long term, and I think Greg would even agree, he's also earned a lot of that. He's had some troubles in the last couple of games. I think a lot of that has to do with maybe some workload and some tired legs and different things like that. But he's an extremely, extremely competitive person. And I think that with Greg, he can sort of figure out ways to bring that out, right? So Raheem is always 100% ready to go and runs until he doesn't have anything less in the tank. Nick Dupuis is a really interesting story just because Nick was a converted striker basically before he even came into the league, right? So this is a guy now playing center back. He's a backup for this LA Galaxy team, but because of injuries and because of different things, he's been playing a lot. He played a lot last year too. I will say that while he was not a good defender last year, this year he's been pretty good. And Greg Vanney trusts him in that role. So he's really been growing into it. And with injuries to Sega Coulibaly, with injuries to Derek Williams at times, he's had to switch off and come back and forth. So he's really been sort of leaned on in this season as well.
No, that's awesome. Glad to see, definitely, that those two, they didn't fit into Montreal, but glad to see that they're making their way. And I mean, Raheem Edwards played his way back into national team contention. So that speaks a lot, I think.
He did. Greg talked a lot about that, saying how Raheem is focused on that. And there's a couple different guys on the Galaxy team who are pushing for those spots. Maybe Dejan Joveljic actually trying to possibly break into the Serbian team as well. Just really interesting little tidbits that add motivation, I'm sure, to all of these international players as we get closer and closer to a Winter World Cup, which is weird and doesn't really feel right, but we're gonna get through that this year.
Exactly. But yeah, speaking of international players, kind of in a little bit of a different context. The Galaxy signed 3 French players in the last couple of years. Obviously LA is Montreal likes to kind of have a monopoly on the French players
Oh
sometimes.
yes.
Yeah, but so like, why do you think they kind of turned so much attention to France? Like, especially Samuel Grandsir and Kevin Cabral, as
Kevin
big money
Cabral, yep.
players.
Yeah, Sega Coulibaly as well in there,
Yeah.
and then you could even in some ways look at Ryan Raveloson, who plays for Madagascar, but has spent time in France and certainly knows that as well. So there are 4 French-speaking players. Actually, that's a lie. There are 5 because Sasha Kleshin speaks French. That's why.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, actually, he's the unofficial translator. They sat Sasha Kleshin between all of the French-speaking players. That way they can keep them all connected. I talked with Sasha a little bit about that, and he said, "I hope I get paid extra money as the translator."
But he did play in Belgium for a while. Maybe that's where he learned his French. Maybe.
And Sasha has said that his French has gotten a lot better just sitting around and talking with the guys.
Nice.
And it's fun. All of them are extremely fun individuals to talk to. Kevin's a little shy. Sega is the outgoing, funny one who loves to talk English and wants to speak in English all the time. And so he's always like enthused about it and happy and excited. And so he's a lot of fun. Sam Grandsir is a little more shy, but he has a really outgoing attitude on the field. So you see that. And then Ryan Raveloson, he's sort of the statue. You'd never know if he's having fun or not having fun. And I don't even know how much English he speaks. It's a little bit here and there. So it was really interesting to see them target it. And I think 2 factors sort of come in. And the main factor was during the pandemic. The LA Galaxy didn't exactly have a robust scouting system set up for all of this. And so they were sort of trying to find little places that they could, I'll say exploit, right? And really whenever you're looking at football teams going and finding places, they're like, where are places where the players are undervalued and the players are actually good, right? So that type of thing. So they looked at, to League Two and some League One teams and that type of thing to sort of try to find those undervalued players. Certainly the addition of Jerome Meary as a constant source in all of Major League Soccer, I think has that happen as well. I don't know if that's
a bit of a monopoly on French players, Jerome Meary, by the way.
I'm not so sure if that's a good thing or not.
Exactly.
Especially with the LA Galaxy. We've talked about that a lot on our podcast. So maybe a little bit too much of a reliance on him to sort of connect and find things. Michael Ciani was another player who was at the LA Galaxy, right? And also Jerome Meary. There's a couple that we could probably go through and be like, okay, I don't know if those worked out. So the lack of scouting sort of had them looking to exploit things. Greg Vanny went over and they were trying to find people to play games during pandemic, trying to turn things over, trying to find young things. That's really why they went to France to try to find those. So
and of course, Greg had some contacts, right, in France because he played in France in Bastia when he was a player before. Right?
Exactly, and it was funny. He was talking about this game just yesterday, and he was talking about your coach as well, and saying, hey, we're good friends, and we've been around the circuit together, the French circuit together. We know each other. So he was really excited about the game and sort of talking about Montreal and all those things. But yeah, there's always, I think that's the familiarity there with Greg, is being like, I know, I kind of get, I get it, I understand. I don't know if all of those have worked out, by the way. I'll say that Kevin Cabral is extremely underperforming for what the LA Galaxy thought they were going to get. Samuel Grandsir has a great engine, but doesn't really do much on either end of the ball to sort of put that out there. Works really hard. I always appreciate a hard worker. Those types of things. Ryan Raveloson has fallen off a little bit of a cliff lately too, as well. So Sega Coulibaly is probably the best player out of all 4 of those guys who are there. So it's a very mixed bag right now on the French experiment.
Oh, fair enough. Interesting. We've also had our own mixed bags. But if we look across town, obviously LAFC, the big rival, I think, of LA Galaxy right now. They've decided to go in a little bit of a different direction when it comes to scouting their players, and they've signed a few international superstars in their own right in the past couple of weeks. We won't name names. How has that been perceived by the by the LA Galaxy fan base?
It's interesting. We obviously talk a lot on Twitter, and then there's the Discord and everything like that. And Gareth Bale's name came up many, many times. And the general idea was that the LA Galaxy don't want to sign any more old players who are injury prone and all these other things. So you look at that and you say, okay, then understand that you're saying you're okay with passing on that, and then Gareth Bale can go to somebody like LAFC, right? I think, from my point of view, it makes sense for them. Also, it's a playbook that has been fairly well played out before in terms of getting international players. And by the way, I think Gareth Bale will be more motivated than perhaps he has been in a very long time with the World Cup coming up and knowing he needs games and minutes and all those things. I think but also LAFC is a good enough team. They probably don't need Gareth Bale to play every minute of every single game, right? And if he wants to go play golf, he can go play golf, right? So like those types of things. The two teams are in vastly different places, where LAFC is very deep. They have a lot of places. They have a lot of people. They don't necessarily have to rely on Chiellini, or they don't have to rely on Bale, right? They don't have to rely on those guys. If the Galaxy got either one of those players, they would have to rely on them right now, just because the way the team set up isn't great. So, there is certainly some uneasiness, and I would say that Douglas Costa probably gets a lot of that blame as a designated player who doesn't seem to play very much. That's tough. It's tough to handle.
Know those.
So,
we know a lot about those.
I'm just sitting here like,
Well, it was funny because Bruce, during the Bruce Arena days, whenever Bruce was in LA, he would always talk about how your designated players have to be guys that you hit on, right? You can't miss on your designated players, and yet the LA Galaxy, and I'm sure other teams around the league, constantly miss on designated players, right? Zlatan was great, but the LA Galaxy wasted him. So it was like, so when was the last designated player the LA Galaxy really hit a home run on, right? And you might have to go back to Robbie Keane. I'm trying to think.
The first name that popped in my head.
No,
but the most recent.
Yeah, the most recent was probably Robbie Keane.
Yeah, you're right.
Because then you have Giovanni Dos Santos, you had Jonathan Dos Santos, right? You had Roman Alessandrini, who everybody loves, but he was not on the field as much as he should have been either. Of course,
everybody loves Roman Alessandrini. That's normal. He's Marseille. He's a Marseille guy. That's normal.
He is one of my favorite
people.
I
thought Jonathan Dos Santos was like a good servant of the club, though. But maybe not for a DP price tag.
That's the whole thing. Is it's sort of as the designated player, how do you impact a game? And for one season, 2019, I think Jonathan Dos Santos was that guy. It wasn't so much about Zlatan, because Zlatan was going to score goals all the time. It was what was Jonathan Dos Santos going to do? If he had a good game in the middle, the Galaxy would win the game. If he didn't have a good game in the middle, Galaxy wouldn't win the game, right? And so it was sort of that one season where you could say you got the output from him that you probably expected the entire time. So it hasn't been. You asked how well it was received. Maybe not the best, just because I think the Galaxy are like, okay, now make a move, and the Galaxy can't make a similar move right now.
It's very interesting because you talked about the defense going very well, and the fact that Greg Vanney seems to love football and to have his vision implemented and everything. But on the other hand, how is it possible that a club of the Galaxy stature loses against Sacramento Republic in the U.S. Open Cup? Can you tell us a bit more? Because it wasn't really a rotated squad, was it?
It was a little bit. And certainly you go back to that and understand sort of some of the issues. I'll say this, is we see it every year in every league where there's some big team that loses to a lower level team. And this is nothing new. I think people want to make it a bigger deal than it is. It really came down to a competition between two teams. One team competed, one team didn't. Whenever you see that, I think it was pretty obvious just in that game, and you're like, okay, to me, that's not something to lose like a heartache over. The problem was it was the easiest way for the LA Galaxy to lift a trophy this year, and they had the dream draw up until that point, right? They had basically just to play LAFC as a top, and then you're through. So you're like, oh, okay, and they got through that, and they played probably their best game of the year against LAFC. So you sit there and go, that's the bigger issue, is that you look at the game against LAFC and say, okay, the Galaxy clearly were there for that game. They wanted to win that game, and they did. Then you look at a team against the game against Sacramento, it's like it wasn't there, and that's this team right now. It's back and forth and back and forth. I don't put it into oh my God, it should never happen. I've seen the biggest teams of the world lose to sometimes, second division, third division teams. Quite honestly, Sacramento's a very good team. I know Todd Donovan is a former LA Galaxy player and who's the president of Sacramento Republic. So I got to see him afterwards and talk to him afterwards and give him congratulations on it. And he goes, I thought we needed the perfect game, and we kind of got one for us. And I said, you guys should try scoring early in the 4th minute all the time. I think that'll help you guys out a little bit. I think he agreed. So I tend to downplay it. I know you're going to find people who sit there and say it was the most embarrassing thing. That I've seen a lot more embarrassing games than that one. That one was just a throwaway game. So is what it is.
Now the transfer market is now open. What kind of players are you looking at? Any players? What kind of players are you looking for? Did Greg Vanney or anybody say that they were in the process of maybe signing a new player or not?
Yeah, so yesterday, whenever we talked to Greg, there were rumors and transfer rumors out there about a defensive midfielder from Parma who was playing in second division, I think Spain, and that is Gaston Brugman. Gaston Brugman is a Uruguayan, I believe, and so he's a defensive midfielder. Greg Vanney was high on a defensive midfielder. I talked to Greg Vanney yesterday. He did confirm that they had ongoing conversations with this particular player. At this point, if you read between the lines, Gaston Brugman is the signing that's coming in right away as soon as that window officially opens and comes in and they can sign. And so that'll happen, I imagine, later this week. So that seems to, he's already sort of been tweeting out stuff Brugman has about how he's coming and, that type of thing. So it's more or less confirmed as far as I'm concerned. So that's fine. Vinny was pretty open about wanting another player as well. He said that they were talking to multiple players right now and that he was looking for one more perhaps. So for sure you're going to get one, a defensive midfielder. His reasoning behind the defensive midfielder is going to be to push Ryan Raveloson forward a little bit more and Mark Delgado forward. So basically an inverted triangle with Brugman playing the defensive midfielder and then letting Delgado and Raveloson pivot off that. And that means that Victor Vasquez, again, somebody I'm sure you're familiar with, Victor Vasquez doesn't have to play as much. And that's good because he has not been able to handle much of a load this year. Obviously, he's getting up there in age, and time always wins. So, so yeah, that's the idea. Vanny mentioned that they were going to get somebody either. I asked if they were still focused on the center of the field, and he said maybe somebody can play outside or inside, but more on the offensive side of the ball. So clearly, in my mind, they have a target picked out. And whether or not they can close that target or they have to go to the secondary one, because it seems like they have one or two, there's going to be somebody else. But yeah, it's two players, one right away. The other one might still take a little bit of time to close out.
Fair enough. You mentioned if we start looking toward our upcoming match here, you've kind of talked about two players and maybe not in the most glowing of terms. But two of your designated players, Kevin Cabral and Douglas Costa, find themselves suspended for the upcoming match versus Montreal because they both picked up a red card in the midweek match versus Minnesota.
Minnesota, yeah.
Yeah, that was wild. So who do you anticipate is going to be filling in for their absences? And do you anticipate that it's going to have any negative impact? I kind of get the gist of no.
Yes and no. It's strange. So Douglas Costa probably had his most impactful appearance as an LA Galaxy player in that second half in Minnesota.
With his red card.
But so the red card came in the exact last play of the game.
Yeah,
right? So
it was
one of those.
90 plus 5 or something crazy.
And he's going to be suspended for 2 games. So he's going to lose this game against Montreal and then the next one against LAFC as well. So that's a thing. So yes, that thing. The thing that hurts with Kevin Cabral is that he's a consistent starter in the group and that he mans one of the wings. And in Greg Vanney's preferred lineup, he is one of the wingers. Samuel Grandsir is the other one. So Sam and Kevin sort of march on the outside and provide a lot of width and speed. They don't necessarily provide goals, but that's the idea, is width and speed that creates openings for Chicharito and all those fun things that happen. So there's nobody really they have that's going to be able to match that. And so you're gonna take Kevin Cabral off, and Douglas Costa hasn't really been a starter recently because he was injured and all these other things that sort of happened. Now he's a red card, so now you don't have to worry about him. So more than likely, Efrain Alvarez is probably going to get the start on the right-hand side in place of Kevin Cabral. They are totally not like for like. There is nothing about them that says Efrain Alvarez is not a winger. He's never been a winger. He won't be a forward. He's not fast enough to even approach that, but he is a creative presence. And he had a come-to-Jesus meeting with Greg Vanney in the last couple of weeks. And it was sort of, I would imagine, just from the way Greg talked about it, just saying it was Efrain coming in and saying, what do I need to do to get better? And they've been like, where have you been? We're glad to have you. Welcome to the club. That type of thing. So Efrain Alvarez now has to sort of show and earn his spot there. He's a very promising talent. I don't think he has the ability to be a day in, day out starter in Major League Soccer. Other people disagree with me, and that's fine. He has a really nice left foot, but here's the thing. Efrain Alvarez can absolutely ruin the game for Montreal. It'll be like one play. He'll get it on his left foot. Everybody's like, let him shoot from there and he'll score. It'll be one of those weird things. He's done that multiple times throughout his career. The good news for you is it usually happens once per season, and it happened in the second game of the season. for the LA Galaxy when they beat Charlotte. So I think you're okay. I think you're in the clear for Efrain making that game-winning goal from somewhere deep and stupid usually.
Excellent. That's a relief. We have a couple of kind of classic questions that we like to ask all of our guests. So just to kick it off, if you could choose, which CF Montreal player would you want signed on the Galaxy in a heartbeat?
You know, it was funny. I probably wouldn't have been able to answer this question like without, doing a whole bunch of research and stuff like that. But I talked to Greg yesterday, and he was talking about, is it Milovic, right? Matko Milovic?
Matko Milovic?
Yeah. Just in terms of different things. And Vanny was talking about how a bunch of people do. I then went and sort of was starting to watch some things and sort of pay attention because I was also getting ready for the game and trying to pay attention to all these different things. And then I remembered I watched some highlights because Greg Vanny had talked about some other people. And I was like, oh, well, I need to go watch these guys. So I remember that Kai Kamara obviously plays on the team. And here's the thing is that the LA Galaxy right now can't score goals to save their lives. They actually create a ton of chances. And so they're looking for a finisher. And you'd say, well, you have Chicharito. You have one of the best finishers in the world at one point in that way. Sometimes I just feel like there's too much pressure and it's too much singular focus on him. So while I'm not necessarily a huge fan of Kai Kamara's, his track record speaks for itself in the ability not only to create, but to finish. And just be a strong presence. And I actually got to meet him, I think, at a MLS media day, and he was a wonderful person to be around. So
he's amazing.
I always enjoy wonderful people to be around, and it's like, you can win me over pretty quickly if you're just like, oh, hi. I forget. There was another player, Bradley Wright Phillips, right?
Yeah.
So he would, whenever he would come into those meetings, he would go around and there would be like 20 or 30 reporters sitting in a U, and he would go over and shake everybody's hand. Hey, how are you doing? It's good to see you. Hi.
Same for Kai Kamara. It's like, exactly.
There's something about that it's like we tell players all the time that if they ever want to like get on everybody's good side, just do that. That's a good trick to use because I'm already like, man, this guy's nice. He came around and said hi to everybody. That's awesome. So I would probably put that, Kai right now for the LA Galaxy, just as whether it would be a sub role or as a starter, the Galaxy could probably use a couple more goals. So I'll take that.
No, fair enough. That's our first Kai answer. Excellent.
All right, cool.
Next up, we have you'd almost call it a game, I guess, or you might consider it torture. We'll see. So it's going to be like kind of like a fill in the blank. And so we'll each take a turn. And you can go first if you like. We'll give you the honors as our guest, but if you want to prepare, no worries.
Okay, I will definitely not go first. That's okay. I will get a feel for it, yes.
Hady, I'll hit you with the question first. Fill in the blank. LA Galaxy will win if... and Montreal will win if.
Oh, wow. I think LA Galaxy will win if... that's very hard. If Montreal... If unfortunately Kamal Miller is not back in the starting 11, I think the Galaxy will win. It's very, very, very simple for me, but he should be back, by the way. And Montreal will win if they played the exact same game they played in Seattle, where they're not afraid about the opposition and they play their game. Because when they play their game, they're very, very, very good. So
I was going to say, I'm gonna interrupt just for a second. I will say one thing that has determined a lot of LA Galaxy wins this year is if they score first. As a matter of fact, them scoring first in their record, I have it somewhere and I can't remember, but basically they've lost once all year when they've scored first. They've won once all year when they've allowed the first goal.
Oh, okay? Wow.
So that is if you want to know the key to beating the LA Galaxy if you're Montreal, score the first goal. That's it. And it's an easy one. Okay. So go ahead. Continue. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you said the Galaxy will win if, but go ahead with the Montreal will win if.
I mean, it's almost it's almost the inverse. I'll change my LA Galaxy one. Montreal will win if they score first, right? That'll be my one. The LA Galaxy will win if they believe, as they have in other games, that that they can play with anybody in the league. They actually tend to do really well against teams that want to play. I think Montreal is one of those teams that wants to play. I think that Montreal believes that they're one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. I think that will work against them in some ways, just because when teams come to LA and they think they're going to pound on them, and we're just going to run over them. The Galaxy have actually been really successful in that. Look at LAFC now twice. Look at New York City at the beginning of the year as well. Seattle had a really tough game against the LA Galaxy in Seattle. They ended up winning, but it was a game the Galaxy were absolutely in. So the good teams don't scare the LA Galaxy. It's the bad ones, like Sacramento Republic and some of those people at the bottom of the table that you have to worry about, I think, if you're a Galaxy fan.
Eve?
Fair enough. Yeah, so I will say that LA will win if Efrain Alvarez is ready to steal a spot. If his come to Jesus talk, I'm a strong proponent of office talks with the manager. As anyone who's listened to this podcast for any length of time knows, I think that they heal all wounds. So if his come to Jesus talk with Greg Vanney comes through, I think that he breaks his record of one crazy fluke goal per season, and makes the difference. And I will say that Montreal will win if I'm going to say if they don't concede in as ridiculous a way as they've conceded so many times this season. Utterly preventable goals where you just ask yourself how in professional soccer. Well, so even if they concede, there's a chance, but just don't make it pathetic.
Eve, I feel like you have some LA Galaxy fandom in you just by the way that you responded with don't be ridiculous. We were in how you conceded. Vanney was talking about and comparing some of his Toronto teams with the LA Galaxy teams. And he goes, this one year, and I forget which year it was, he goes, man, we scored goals. Our offense was great, but we couldn't stop anybody from scoring. And we conceded in the most ridiculous ways. And he goes, actually, this LA Galaxy team has some of that in them. He goes, sometimes I wonder and I look and I go, why did we decide to make this? Just boneheaded plays. He's like, there was no play to be had. Just drop and cover. Yeah. He goes, what are you trying to do? Right. It was funny just to watch him sort of melt down in the moment, and he was like, yeah. Toronto, oh wait, no, this team does that too. Oh, okay.
So, I wonder if that was 2015, because 2015 is the year their offensive motor got running, but man, Montreal carved them apart in all their meetings.
That sounds about right. So off the top of my head, but yeah, it was wide ranging yesterday. He was talking about all sorts of things. We got down into the U13 academy too, I think, at one point.
Oh, so. Wow. Oh, okay. Yeah. Interesting. Now, last question for you, Josh. Score prediction.
Do you guys look at 538? 538.
I weirdly look at them for
politics and stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's a sports section, and they do the predictions on the sports. We use them because they rely heavily, I think, on expected goals and expected goals against, right? Mm-hmm. And to sort of figure stuff out. So they had the LA Galaxy at a 50% favorite, which is hysterical. And the Galaxy, anytime they've been listed as a 50% favorite, have lost this year. So that's a good sign for you as well. So yeah, I know you're going to be fine with that. I just thought it was interesting they had the Galaxy winning by that much, and then basically 25% chance for Montreal and 25% chance for a draw. Mm-hmm. I like the draw call here. I feel like Montreal is the better team. I feel like the flight from Montreal to LA is almost the same as flying from LA to Sydney, Australia. It feels roughly the same in terms, and probably not quite, I know the hours are different, but it feels about they're that far away. That usually helps the Galaxy whenever any teams are traveling that far. So, take Montreal down a peg a little bit, the LA Galaxy raise up a peg a little bit because Montreal likes to play. And if you add those two things together, I think you get a 1-1 draw.
Well,
nice.
Do you want to tell him that Montreal stayed on the West Coast, or will I?
I do know that. You're not in your home. You're on. You're in Seattle, right? You're not away. You're not training in the same place. You're not doing all those things.
No.
So yeah.
And it might even be a little bit preseason vibes.
We saw some buses arrive yesterday at training, and I'm like, who's showing up? Who's coming? I was looking at my watch. I'm like, who's coming in? I'm like, oh, it could be Montreal. Maybe Montreal showed up yesterday, and they were training yesterday whenever I was out at the stadium. I don't know. I couldn't see inside the bus, so maybe they're already here.
Yeah. No, I think they are physically in LA. Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
They're in
As to,
in LA
I'm not
right
sure
now.
if they were training yesterday or not.
Yeah, and I'm going to give my prediction, and I'm going to be as pessimistic as Eve, and I would say a 2-0 loss, I think, in LA for me, because, I have a feeling that the Galaxy, as you said a bit earlier, Josh, Greg Vanny has always had our number, and I have a feeling that tomorrow is going to be, the same. Unfortunately, Eve.
Yeah. I liked Josh's call of a 1-1 draw. I might
Oh,
roll
I would
with
love
that.
that. I would love that.
4 points on a Western Conference
wow.
road trip. Oh my god! Like start the car. But I don't know. I don't think Montreal's gonna get blown out of the water. I really
Wow,
don't.
okay.
And I
Guys,
think that they're gonna
please
bring a
take
good
note.
mentality.
Take a note. It's the
Go buy
first
your lottery
time
tickets
in
tonight,
the history of the ball is round that I have a more pessimistic answer than Eve. Please take a note.
Can I give Eve one little thing? I will say that the LA Galaxy, in playing down 10 men to Minnesota in the second half, they scored 2 goals on an 11-man team.
No. And Montreal have already lost to a 10-man team this year. Actually, multiple times.
Yeah. So I will say that Greg Vanny saw that second half and said that's the way that we play, and if they match that intensity, that I think they'll dismantle Montreal. I just don't have any sort of belief that they can do that. So I'll take my draw.
They could start 10 men.
They could, there you go. Just play with 10. It's a great idea. I like it.
Josh, thanks a lot for being here. Can you tell us a bit more how, if our fans want to reach you, to talk to you, to discuss, LA Galaxy stuff? How do they do it? How can they reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. Cornerofthegalaxy.com is sort of your one-stop place for all of our podcasts, all of our reporting, any of that stuff. Cornerofthegalaxy.com, and of course, anywhere you can find podcasts, just type in Corner of the Galaxy, and you'll find us. We're there.
Of course, and on Twitter, if I'm not mistaken, right?
At Galaxy Podcast too. Thank you for doing my job for me. I appreciate that. I forget sometimes. At Galaxy Podcast, you can find us on Twitter for sure.
Perfect. So that's it. Thank you very much. Feel free to come back anytime. It was very nice to have you. Thanks a lot for stopping by, Josh.
It was a pleasure. You too. Enjoy the rest of your day. All right.
Same
Perfect.
to
You too.
Thank you.
Bye, Josh.
Bye, Josh.
So that was a very interesting.
I gotta say it again. We're so spoiled.
Yeah,
we're so spoiled with our guests.
We are very, very spoiled with our guests. We're very lucky, and you know what? Every time we invite someone else, we're like really surprised by how much they're knowledgeable about their teams, and we learn a lot. And it's really amazing. So I hope you guys liked that small interview. But let's move on directly to that famous win for CF Montreal in Seattle. That was something. It
was good.
Were you expecting that, Eve?
Hell no. I was like, whatever. I was okay to like rotate the bejesus out of the squad because I figured that LA is generally a somewhat more takeable team. So I was like, whatever, just let Seattle have their way with you, like the well-oiled machine that they are. And I will just grin and bear it and wait for Monday. Honest to goodness.
Yeah, I think we were all very pessimistic about that game. To be honest, I don't think that anybody thought that we could win in Seattle. Let's not forget that Seattle is the champion of the Champions League, of the CONCACAF Champions League, the first MLS champion, in the new format of Champions League, of the CONCACAF Champions League. And that's something very big. And it's sort of a dynasty, too, with such amazing players like Jordan Morris, like Nico Ladero, like so many good players, Gomez in the defense, the goalkeeper, Stephen Fry. So many good players, and you know what? We were able to win that game. And let's dive into the analysis of that game. So first of all, we had a starting 11 from Wilfried Nancy. Interesting. I think very interesting starting 11. I can't wait to hear your comments about it. So we had Sebastian Breza in goal, Johnston as a right center back, Rudy Camacho and Joel Waterman as a left center back. As a right wing back, we had Mathieu Chouanière, Ismail Kone and Victor Wanyama in the middle of the park, and as a left wing back, Lassi Lapalainen. As a offensive midfielder, we had Matko Miljevic, and we had 2 players up top with Kai Kamara and a surprise inclusion in starting 11 with Mason Toye. When you
Mm-hmm.
saw that first lineup, Eve, were you surprised?
Overall, not well. A little bit, definitely surprised to see Toya getting his start right out the gate. I wasn't sure, if they were going to give him a full start or maybe ease him a little bit more into playing after so long out. As well, I was a bit surprised to see Kai Kamara start as well. I can only suspect that means maybe he won't be starting Monday night. As well, Ismail Kone kind of proves that spot next to Victor Wanyama isn't really owned by anyone yet, I don't think. But then other than that, no big surprises.
Oh, you know what? I was very interested to know who was going to take that position. In the middle of as an offensive midfielder, we had Ahmed Hamdi that had a spell that wasn't very convincing.
I was like,
yeah,
I was
and
like, we're
even
done with that,
beforehand-
thank you.
Yeah, but you know what? Even beforehand, Matko wasn't really convincing either. So at one point, who are you going to give a chance again? Who are you going to give a second chance again? So he chose Matko Miljevic, and you know what? We're going to talk about it and his performance during the game. But seems that it was the right decision. So let's start with this directly. The first few seconds, at one point, a minute and maybe 30 seconds before the unfortunate event, there was a double contact from Mathieu Chouanière on the right hand side. He was playing as a right wing back, as I said earlier. He wins the ball back, gives it to Matko. Matko directly controls it with his chest and shoots on target. A very weak shot still, but very early in the game. It's kind of interesting to see how Matko had one thing in mind: to shoot the ball, to get balls on the goal. When you saw that, were you kind of intrigued?
A little bit, yeah, for sure, because, I was expecting Montreal maybe to sit back a bit and be a bit more compact, because this is Seattle's house. It is typically kind of a fortress, and obviously they're a team, I believe, that's respected throughout the league, and rightfully so. So, yeah, a little bit, but now with the glory of hindsight, I can say, oh well, this was clearly a sign of the tactical plan.
Yeah, it was, and we're going to talk about it a bit later. But right before we started really taking the game in our own hands, unfortunately, Seattle had a very convincing chance on goal with a great
so convincing
cross.
that it was a goal.
Exactly. It was a great through ball across from Christian Roldan to Jordan Morris that really was outpowered, I think, Mathieu Chouanière and scored a goal.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think there was anybody to blame on that goal, or do you think that it's just
Referee.
Seattle being Seattle?
I think there was a foul in the build-up.
Yeah, there was a foul on Joel Waterman, in your opinion.
There was so that obviously if the foul had been called, no such long ball would have happened, so on and so forth. But I think Mathieu Chouanière definitely was outmuscled. I don't know where the remaining defenders were. Obviously, Joel Waterman was like on his arms,
was on the ground.
Pitch. But as far as Rudy Camacho or Alistair Johnston, who was playing central back that day, I don't know where they were because it was poor little Mathieu Chouanière, who has worked very hard, I think, to handle the physicality of MLS. But Jordan Morris is a strong player. And as well, unfortunately, Chouanière did allow Jordan Morris to get the wrong side of him. He wasn't able to shield him away from goal.
Yeah, but I think that you cannot put a wing back on Jordan Morris, whoever it is.
No.
Right?
I know he shouldn't have been there. He shouldn't have been the one on him in the first place.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was just a calamity of like bad.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was. I can't point out any mistakes from Montreal defense, in my opinion. Yes, maybe there was a bit of a gap, for the through ball to be successful. Maybe it was interesting to know where Rudy Camacho was on that goal, but still, like it's an amazing goal from the pass from Christian Roldan is really good. The control of Jordan Morris. Yeah, the control of Jordan Morris and the shot, in a tight angle to find, directly, the small, the small net. So it was really interesting and really I think a very good build-up play from Seattle. But right after that, I think Montreal took control of the game,
Very
and
much.
yeah. Do you think that that's when Montreal got maybe a slap on the face and just woke up and they were like, oh, you know what? Yeah, we need to wake up.
I gotta wonder, yeah. It certainly looked like that on the pitch. Because after that, they took control of the first half, quite frankly.
Yeah, exactly. And afterwards, of course, Kai Kamara, so good player. Really, he's been amazing for Montreal this year. He wins the ball back from Jackson Reagan. A lot of people are saying that Jackson Reagan is an amazing center back, but he wasn't really good during that game. We'll talk about it a bit later. On the 17th minute, gives it to Mason Toy. He's alone in a box and he scores in a tight angle. How good is it to see Mason Toy finding the back of the net?
Was so happy for him, so happy. Obviously he was close in his first match back at Stade Saputo last Saturday, and then to see him score, to see him, with a really nice composed finish, and he clearly run with the striker's instinct into the right place at the right time, stayed on side the whole 9 yards. I was so happy for him. Like, it was super late at night. I was in my bed watching, I'm not gonna lie. And I was there like, yes, I threw a pillow on the floor. I was incredibly happy for him. So satisfied to see him because it's been a long road back from that shoulder injury. And then obviously that became another injury. So really, really happy for him.
Yeah, he's been very patient, and it's a really well-deserved goal for Mason Toy. But what's really interesting is that Montreal, equalized and continued on being very, very concentrated and
keeping a
following
lot
the
of
game
possession
plan.
as well.
Yeah, following the game plan, keeping possession, trying to still create danger, and I think one of the embodiments of that culture, of the tactical culture that Montreal had during that game was Matko Miljevic. During that game, he was so good, especially in the first half. He was so good trying to take a shot every time that he can. And I remember in the 32nd minute, it's Lassie that gives him a ball, gives him a pass in a tight angle. Yes, he does shoot it wide, and a minute later, again, on the top of the box, he gets the ball back from Rudy Camacho, a through ball from Rudy Camacho, turns around really quick, and again shoots the ball. Now, the two shots were weak, but still, the intentions are here. Do you think we've seen the best of Matko during that first half?
I mean, given that this was against MLS opposition, because we could also look back to his game against Forge, but that was CPL opposition. Given that this was against MLS opposition, absolutely beyond a shadow of a doubt. Even when he wasn't in a shooting position, I still thought his passing was more intelligent, and that he was part of maintaining the tempo that Montreal was looking to create as well. And sometimes it felt like he was a little bit more of a bystander, or that he was trying to do too much. And it felt like he had found a balance in when to dribble, when to pass, when to shoot. Even though, as you said, he was definitely looking to shoot a lot.
Oh, you know what? I don't mind that.
No,
I really don't.
No, it's fine.
I really don't, because someone has to shoot. And, and at the end of the day, if that's the way... that's his way of showing up, if that's his way of being up to par, I don't mind. Shoot as much as you want, man. If that gives you confidence, just, shoot the ball, And, halftime, it was 1-1 for Montreal. What did you think about that first half? Were you pessimistic, Eve, or were you a bit shocked, or were you surprised?
I was confused, Eve. I was like, who is this team, and what have they done with Montreal? I know so well. Montreal have been decent on the road this year by and large. Overall, you think about several of their games, and even with this win, I think they've equaled their most wins ever on the road in an MLS season. So they haven't been bad at all on the road for the most part. So I guess maybe I shouldn't have been as surprised as I was, but for as good as they looked, I was very, very surprised.
Yeah, no. Now, of course, second half started, and we all know the beginning of the second half in Montreal has always been very difficult. A shot from Christian Roldan at the 45th minute, very, very difficult for Sebastian Breza. That almost slipped under his arm. So I think he was so fortunate to grab it back and to make sure that the ball didn't fumble. Were you like a bit uneasy with that that chance on goal?
By this point, I'm not surprised. So, not really.
Wow.
I think we've talked a lot about it, so I'm just like, I'm not going to spend an eternity longer on that. But definitely, it's definitely a good reminder that Seattle is very much in this match, and they, regardless of, they had several important absentees, but they also have several extremely good players on the pitch. So yeah, for me, it was almost like I think a good thing that it came right on the cusp of halftime, because maybe that could give Wilfred Nancy the reminder to say, oh, wake up. This game isn't done and dusted. It's only 1-1 to the team at halftime.
Yeah. Now, 48th minute throw-in. A big throw-in, header from Reagan, goes directly on the head of Christian Roldan, who heads the ball, and it goes inches wide.
Yeah.
Wake-up call, right?
I would assume, yeah. Yeah. It was wide, and I think Montreal was, again, lucky that it was wide, and maybe the football gods were just smiling upon them in general, overall.
I think if you look at the Seattle team, do you think that Christian Roldan was the best player of the opposition? I think during that game, or would you give it to Jordan Morris?
Christian Roldan pulled a lot of strings to create a lot of chances. Obviously, Jordan Morris had the finishing, and I mean there were more than one time Jordan Morris did have the out-muscling of whoever was tasked with marking him. It's pretty close between the two. I think Christian Roldan created more chances for his teammates, so maybe I would edge him out on that difference.
Yeah, and again, we talked a bit about Matko, and his performance during that game. But I think another player that was really interesting, because again, in the 57th minute, we saw a link up between Lassi Lapalainen and Matko Mijevic that was really interesting. Lassi had a very good game. Is it me or?
He had quite a good match. For all the shtick we've given him on this show, and I think Montreal, the city over, has given him. But yeah, overall he had a good game, and I even thought Joel Waterman was able to connect decently with Lassie as well.
Yeah,
better than Kamal Miller has been able to. If we want to kind of compare semi apples to apples, which I also thought was interesting, because it's no secret that it's been difficult for Lassie to find a teammate with whom he can exchange passes easily and who seems to have that chemistry and that understanding of where the other's going to be. So, I'm pleased to see that he seems to be on the right wavelength with his teammates in that match, and hopefully going forward.
Yeah, no, exactly, and you know what? It's very interesting that you talk about the link up between Waterman and Lassie, and you're completely right. I think Waterman had one of his best games of the season, if not of his career, because he was really instrumental during that game too. So a lot of positives on players that. Waterman has been very good this year, but if you look at Lassie, Matko, players that have been, very average, having a very good game, it shows that your team is doing well, in my opinion, right?
Agreed. Yeah. But yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Now, right after, a few seconds later, it's Mathieu Choinière that gets the ball as a wingback, as a right wingback this time, of course, and gives it to Toy and scores and crosses to Toy, and Toy gets a header.
Okay, I was so worried that he had hurt himself.
Yeah, same because he was very awkward with
Well, no,
that
and then
header,
really
right?
shortly after, he started making signs for a
Yeah,
sub, and I was
yeah.
like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" I was like ready to cry. I don't know if I got a little feminine in my feelings, but anyway, I was like, "How dare you, God," and stuff. But thankfully, obviously, that wasn't the case. But again, it was good to see Toy get his head on the ball. And if I recall, that was was it a header that he narrowly missed on his return? It was, eh?
I'm
I
not
feel
sure.
like yes.
Yeah, it was a header. A header,
Yeah,
yeah,
but no.
exactly
So
like
also
you said.
also good to see him get his head on a ball.
Yeah,
And but definitely give Stefan Fry a good scare.
yeah, exactly. He did save
Yeah.
that header, of course, because it was a bit weak header, unfortunately. But a few minutes later, at the 62nd minute, it's a cross. Sorry, it's Kamara on the left. He dribbles Reagan again, like he was a rookie because he is, and crosses the ball.
Yes. Stop being so mean to this poor
Oh man,
child.
you know what? I had such a difficult conversation with someone on Twitter. I don't remember who. I asked for the best starting 11 when you take the two teams together. When you take
Mm-hmm.
Seattle and you take Montreal and you take the two teams together, what is
Mm-hmm.
the best starting 11 that you can get from those two squads?
Mm-hmm.
And some people were saying that Reagan is better than Camacho or Miller. I was like, man, he only played 9 games in his whole career, and you're saying that he's better than them. Like, what are you talking about? And now I'm just, drilling him,
Okay, well that's one match. You can't judge a player on one match and one match
He's
alone, or else
not
Perry
that good.
Novila would still be with this team.
He's not that good. I'm sorry. He's not. And
Okay.
now, Kai Kamara dribbles Reagan and crosses the ball, and Mason Toy is here at the right place at the right time and scores a brace. His brace. We were happy with one goal. How are
Oh
you
my
with the
god.
second one?
Ecstatic, apoplectic, lost my sweet little mind. I was incredibly happy for him. It was the go-ahead goal, obviously, and it was really cool because Kai Kamara had given him the assist on both goals, which was interesting to see because I know last year, we'd certainly talked a lot about a Kyoto toy partnership, and then all of a sudden this Kai Kamara toy partnership seems to have come out of nowhere. Obviously, we haven't been able to see Kyoto and Toy together really yet, so jury's out there. But so happy for him, and it was a good finish, a good run to really kind of hide, I think, almost in the blind spot of the defender in front of him, and then as for the defender behind him, I don't know why that guy was just lingering behind him, like.
It wasn't
Needlessly.
Reagan this time.
No, you're correct. It wasn't. But anyway, like the guy behind him, I was like, well, clearly Mason Toy is going to get the ball before you do, unless he whiffs it. But anyway, I digress. So he had a great finish once again. And excellent for him. So happy for him.
Yeah, and exactly. And you talked a bit about him asking for a substitution, and it came right after that goal at the
Yeah.
63rd minute. Just to let you know about the fact that he asked for a substitution, he was just feeling cramps. So we heard
And
about
that's
it.
totally normal.
Yeah, so that's completely normal. So nothing to be afraid of. He's not injured or anything. He was just feeling cramps, which is normal after a year without playing, almost a year, maybe 11 months without playing. And at the 63rd minute, Nancy did those two substitutions. So it was Ronald Kyoto that came in for Mason Toy, and Zachary Bourguillard that came in for Lassie Lapolainen. So Bourguillard being a right wing back and Mathieu Chouanière switching to the left wing back role. What do you think about those changes from Wilfried Nancy? Was it the right personnel that came in for those two players?
Kind of obvious. I thought for sure that Mason Toy was going to go out. A, he had been asking to go out, and B, Montreal was now in a winning position, so you'd certainly want to start shoring up your midfield and so on. As I kind of just reflect on it, I'm just thinking a little bit about it. I think Zachary Bourguillard, I think he must be showing something perhaps that Wilfried Nancy's been looking to see from him, because he's been getting a lot more looks in lately than recently. And as well, knowing that, even though Montreal does have kind of the benefit of a little extra rest, given that the game versus LA is on Monday, you certainly have to be mindful of managing your squad and managing the folks you're looking to maybe have start on for Monday's game. So overall, not super surprised, no.
It's very interesting because at one point, Wilfried Nancy in one of his press conferences, at one point he said that Lassi Lapanainen gives you a lot of verticality and it plays, a lot with his speed, with pace and everything. And he was like, yeah, but I have nobody that can play the same style of play. And in my head, I was like, but you have Zachary Bogia. That's exactly the same type of player at the other side of the pitch, right? On your wing back as a wing back, right? So he can bring exactly the same kind of role, but on the other side of the pitch. And it's interesting because this time around, that's exactly what he did. He replaced Lassi for Zachary Bogia to bring that sort of verticality from on the other side of the pitch, which I thought was very smart, in my opinion. So interesting to see that Nancy is trying to play around with the squad that he has, with the players, the types of profiles that he has. He's always been able to do that, but not on the, in my opinion, maybe not on the wing backs.
No,
on
not
the wing
as
backs
much, probably.
Yeah, exactly. So at least now he's able to do that, which I think is going to be a very good thing for Montreal. Of course, tough times for Montreal at that point. We saw a bit of, how can we say it? They were a bit more rigid, a bit more defensive at that point. They gave the ball back to Seattle, trying to preserve that one lead.
They were living on the edge.
Really living on the edge. But I think that Wilfried Nancy did something well. He did switch and ask for another substitution at 71st minute, with Matko Miljevic going out and Samuel Piet coming in. Do you think that was the right move?
Obvious. It was the obvious move to me. I don't think Matko Miljevic really has a defensive bone in his body. And that's not the role we've signed up to have him play. Although Kai Kamara will get back in there and put in a shift. So I don't know what Matko's excuse is. So, yeah, for me, having Samuel Piet, who will snuff out offensive chances like, it's going out of style, that was obvious. I don't know how else to say it. It was obvious.
Yeah, it's funny that you talked about Zachary Bogia being looked at a bit more. At the 76th minute, there was another change and another double substitution with, first of all, Joaquin Torres coming in for Kai Kamara. He's 38, so he has to rest at one point.
And I think maybe Joaquin Torres can also win you some more fouls as well than Kai Kamara might.
Exactly. And then Robert Tarkelson coming in for Ismail Kone. That's something that we haven't seen from Wilfried Nancy, getting Robert Tarkelson in the game as a substitute. Very interesting to see that he's starting to get a bit more confidence in there and confidence in him, in Robert Tarkelson. Do you think that it's a mark of respect from the coach to the player?
I'm not 100% sure what to make of it, to be honest, just because we really have a really small sample size by which to judge Thorkelson so far. So I'm not 100% sure. I will say that he was chosen over Gabriela Corbo, so obviously there must have been some preference for sure shown by Wilfried Nancy. Although it might have just been so that they could shift, so that they could make a four-man defense and then shift Mathieu Chouanière up higher maybe to help clog up the midfield. Not 100% sure. And then having Thorkelson come in would have made tactical sense in that regard, but it was so late that I kind of forget how it wound up looking on the pitch by the end. And when I rewatched it, I didn't want to super rewatch that. Well, because it was like 11 guys basically huddled in the 18-yard box at the end of it.
Yeah, but you know what? I think it's the first time in a while that we've seen Montreal really struggle in play, but still managed to save face, because there wasn't any very dangerous opportunities
like as far
until
as like
the end.
high quality shots. Yeah.
Huh?
As far as like high quality shots, you mean?
High quality, I would say high quality chances, not only shots, because the only high quality chance that the Seattle had was in the 93rd minute. with
Yeah.
Yeimar Gomez
Oh,
getting
okay. Yeah, see, I
the
was
ball in
thinking
the
of that
box.
one, which is
Yeah,
why I was like, yes.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But the rest, from the 62nd minute till the 93rd minute, and that chance for Gomez, it wasn't anything very dangerous from
No.
Seattle. So I think that's
Not
very
as dangerous
positive.
as I'd have expected from
Exactly.
Seattle.
Exactly. And we did have our very dangerous chance with the corner. The corner
Yes.
from Chouanière that went directly on Kyoto's feet, and unfortunately Kyoto missed the target. I think that chance
Yes.
was even a better chance than the one that Gomez had a few minutes
Yeah.
later, right?
Yeah, possibly. You're right. Yeah. Yeah,
So we
and
could have
that
been
was
we
a
could
weird
have
one.
won.
That was a weird one.
That was weird. But you know what? Kyoto has always had trouble with clear-cut chances, it seems.
Yeah,
So,
he likes to do things the hard way. He is a true
exactly.
Montreal player.
So at the end, Montreal wins 2-1. Very interesting. Montreal is right now first in the East. Okay, a lot of people are going to tell me, you know what? 7 points from the 8th position. Yes, I understand that. But still, we're in a mid-season, 17 games played, Montreal is first. Do you think in your wildest dream that this could have happened in March?
No. Especially when we watched those first couple of matches. Oh God, no. No. I was thinking my prediction of 11th was optimistic. No, honestly, I gotta say Montreal, and I mean Montreal, mind you, have left me pretty befuddled with a few of the points that they let slip for sure. I think Montreal might look back later on and kick themselves and think they could have had a more secure grasp on their position. But honestly, this is far better, knowing the level of investment that some other teams have put into signing players in this offseason compared to Montreal. Which has like a much more continuous squad than compared to last year. Overall, like I'm pretty floored.
Yeah, it's very surprising, very very surprising, and very 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 impressive because we see that Montreal, the team is now the squad is now a unit. And that's what's really interesting, and let's hope that they're going to be able to continue on that, that same wavelength in the future. It's going to be very interesting to see how they evolve. I just want to give you one statistic, and I want to hear your comments about that. Montreal has started the year with 1 draw and 3 losses.
Yep.
Since then, 9 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw. What do you think about that?
I think there's a distinct schism of when they stopped playing Champions League. Quite frankly. But overall, I think as well, being able to play at Stade Saputo has been a helper. I think maybe there is a level of reassurance that came with Gabriel Gervais signing into his presidency, because they were very coincidental. Those 2 occurrences, kind of the start of the great form and his arrival. And yeah, I gotta say, whatever, I don't know, maybe Wilfred Nancy had a big office talk, he just had them lined up one after the other.
I think also that the extension for
Olivier
Renard helped a lot, in my opinion. So I don't know. I think that,
though, by and large,
yeah,
pretty recent.
True. But I think showing that the club trusts in the whole system, I think is interesting and gives confidence to the project altogether. And it's very interesting. I think that it's rare to see Montreal so aligned. The high powers in Montreal aligned in the same position, and it's nice. It's really really beautiful to see. And it's funny because we can do the transition with Robbie's question. Robbie asks, what 3 things do CF Montreal need the most to ensure we finish in the top 3 in the standings? And what is the likelihood of getting any of the 3?
Can I go first?
Yeah, go ahead. Please go.
Okay. Just 1 sec. Sorry, there's like a weird noise outside of my house.
It's okay.
I have no idea what the hell it is.
It's
There's
okay.
like somebody ringing a bell. I'm like, what am I?
It's
Oh no, there's something.
It's
real
Santa
weird going
Claus.
on. There's something real weird going on. So I don't want to know what it is. Anyway, but if you hear any weird noises, I'm really sorry, everyone.
it's
So,
okay. Don't worry.
what 3 things? So number 1, sort out the goalkeeping. I don't care how you do it, whether Sebastian Breza calms down in the net, for want of a better word, whether James Pantemis makes a return, or whether some third thing happens. I don't care. But number 1, sort out the goalkeeping. Number 2, decide who's gonna align with Victor Wanyama in the midfield. So pick your true starter next to Victor Wanyama in the midfield, because I'm not sure if the revolving door is as effective as, having a true partnership established could be. And number 3, keep your attacking players healthy, please.
Interesting. And the second part of his question was, what is the likelihood of getting any of the 3?
Any one of those 3? I will say 33%.
Okay. Wow. Wow. Very pessimistic as usual. Now, I will give, I'm going to try to make it a bit more original. I'm going to go, unfortunately,
a
the
bit
other.
more original compared to my
Yeah.
copy and paste someone else's answer. I was cheating on the test.
No, but I think Montreal needs a signing. I think Montreal really needs not an offensive player. I think that Montreal needs a leader. I think that's what's missing in that squad, a leader in that squad. I don't think that we have enough leadership, but, I might be wrong. That's my personal opinion, so that's one of the things. Second thing, I'm going to go, take the complete opposite route of what you said, Yves. For me, you have to keep the rotation going. And especially in the midfield, because playing Wanyama with Kone is good against some opponents, but it's maybe better to play Wanyama and Piet in other games. And I like the fact that we're able to still be as good and get results when we have different partnerships in the middle. And I like that. I like the fact that we're able to mix and match. So that's the second thing. So keep the rotation. And the third thing, I think it's very important that we have Georgie back. Having Georgie back gives us another tool to beat oppositions. And that's something that right now is missing. We're still doing good with him not being here, but I don't think that on a long run, it's something that we can sustain.
No, I mean, we saw what happened last year, when Ramel Kyoto got injured,
Exactly.
for kind of the remainder of the season. It basically hamstrung Montreal. So, yeah.
Exactly. So we cannot have Georgie miss a lot more games. So maybe another couple of weeks is okay, but more than that, it's going to become harder and harder, in my opinion. So that's the 3 of them. I think the likelihood of getting any of the 3, I'm going to say 100%, because I'm pretty sure that Nancy is always going to rotate his squad. So that's the reason why. That's the other 2. I'm pretty sure it's not going to happen, because Georgie, hopefully he will come back in a couple of weeks. But it's always hard for a player to come back from an injury. So maybe is he going to be as fit as he was before his injury? I'm not really sure. Maybe it's going to take him some time to find his groove back. And for the other, I think for the partnership and the rotation in the middle, it's going to be a lot easier. And I think it's the mentality of Wilfried Nancy to always switch it up, and I like that. I really like that. So that's it for the game in Seattle. I don't know if you have anything
Nope.
more to add, Eve.
No, I think we're good to move on.
Yeah, so let's move on to Renard. Olivier Renard had a press conference, media availability, to talk about the midseason, right? Because we played 17 games and a midseason. So I'm just going to give a few points, and then I'll ask you, Eve, to give your opinion and your comments. So first of all, he talked about the situation of Victor Wanyama. He said that he has a very good salary, and he said that we're going to see if the investment is worth it at that position, or is it better for us to invest at other positions. So that's the first thing he said about Victor Wanyama. He also said that to not expect any rivals, only if we sell players. So if players are sold, then players will be bought to replace the players that were sold.
Okay, so much for one of your 3 conditions.
Exactly. And he said that the only person that is really missing is Jason DiTullio. And I love that. And we're going to talk about it a bit later. He also talked about the difference of the team last year and this year, saying that the team is a bit more confident this year and a lot more mature than last year. So losing the games at the end of the year seems to be something that the players have learned from this year. But, unfortunately, we're not at the end of the season yet to see if it's true. So we'll see in the next few games. And then after he said he's not afraid of selling a player at any time. If he thinks that, but he said if he thinks that it's the right moment, and if he thinks that he has a potential replacement for that player. Yeah. So it's very interesting.
Not news to me.
Yeah, but if Jordy gets an offer now, he'll sell him. That's what he said.
If there's a potential replacement for him, yeah.
But he does have a potential. Exactly. Yeah. He does have a replacement. So for me, we'll be a lot weaker without Georgie.
Oh yeah, unequivocally, without a shadow of a doubt, we would be a lot weaker without Mihailovic. But at the same time,
but you know what? But he mentioned something very, very interesting afterwards. He said, if we sell something, we don't have to see it as a negative thing, because it means that we get money to reinforce the squad.
Yeah,
and I like that, because that means that we're selling a player. That means that we're going to reinvest that money. We're not just going to keep it in our pockets. Like a lot of people said that when we sold Baloo, everything went into Joey Saputo's pocket and everything. So, the sporting director is saying that that money will be reinvested in a way. And he said that no players have asked to leave the squad, so not even James Van Temes. So that's really nice. He also said that Bjorn should have the green light from the doctor to rejoin the squad, and he did, by the way. Just to let you know. And he said that they did contact a few clubs in order to see if a potential trade could work, but he didn't get for
Bjorn, or in general with someone
No,
else?
he said in general.
Okay.
He said in general.
Okay. I would have been super surprised if a team had taken them up on Bjorn, but okay.
And then he gave a very weird answer when he was asked about Gareth Bale and Giorgio Chiellini joining LAFC as TAM players, and he kind of indirectly said that it's very weird and it's very blurry how they were able to do that. Yeah. So that's the whole thing. I don't know if you have any comments about that.
Olivier, where if you are in a sunshiny state, the rules work a little differently. No
that's exactly what he said, but in very diplomatic words.
Well, I don't work for any MLS club, so
Perfect. Any other input on everything that was said?
I don't think that much of it was news, to be if I'm totally honest with you. Like we know that all the players are apt to be traded or sold at any moment, and according to Olivier Renard, he always has a backup ready. Obviously no incomings without players outgoing. Like I know Montreal is kind of close to their maximum salary budget, so not super surprised on that. They have 400,000 left.
400K, yeah.
Yeah, that's like, it's not necessarily going to sign you a big difference maker, except unless you find like another Kai Kamara. So I honestly wasn't super surprised by anything that came out of that press conference or media availability, whatever it was. Sorry. I honestly didn't find it very surprising or newsworthy. I'm sorry.
No, it wasn't really surprising or anything. He didn't give any big indications. I love the fact that he talked about the stability in a club, and I think that's the way to go nowadays. In order to build a successful club, you need to have the stability. So I like that. So that's about it for the media availability.
Right.
I think we can go ahead with our next subject with the Canadian national team, the women's national team.
Yeah.
A bit of a preview of the week, because as we said in the last episode with Jorge Sanchez, the CONCACAF W Championship.
Jorge, by the way.
He
love
was amazing.
Him. Oh my God. I bought a shirt after he pointed me in the direction of shirts to buy for women's pay equality, so I got really excited.
Nice. Good.
Coming soon.
He's really nice guy that I've known for a while now. We talked about the CONCACAF W Championship. So that's the equivalent of the Gold Cup for the women's. It's kind of the same thing. So we have two games coming up. First of all, Montreal. The Canadian national team playing against Trinidad and Tobago on the 5th of July.
Yep.
And then the Canadian national team playing against Panama on the 8th of July before our next pod. So what do you think about those games? Should we... We're Canada. We should win those two games easily, right?
Yes. 1,000 times yes. That being said, Canada is going to have to be a lot more dynamic in attack than it was in the friendly versus South Korea. They were really flat in the attack. Deeply concerned. I'm not 100% sure what Christine Sinclair's fitness is going to be like for that. And with no Evelyn Vienne in the squad, I'm not 100% sure that there is like a goal scorer, like somebody whose life is to score goals. Without Christine Sinclair out there. So I'm a little concerned that Canada could make their own work harder than it has to be versus these two teams. But we will see, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see. But you know what? The soccer is really growing in the CONCACAF region, right?
Very much.
So we cannot take those games for granted.
Nope.
But it would be very, very, very bad for Canada not to win. Win those two games. Very,
it would be
very
shameful.
Bad.
Yeah.
Really shameful. So, of course, here on The Ball Is Round, we're going to follow that very closely and watch the games. Even if it's late, it's at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, guys. If you're interested in watching them on One Soccer, of course.
And if you don't catch them, it's CBC Sports is streaming the replays of the first two matches, and then the third match versus Costa Rica, which is next week, will actually be live. So we will have some mainstream visibility for the women's the CONCACAF W Championship, which is awesome.
Very interesting, very, very interesting, and I'm happy to hear that too. So that's it for the Canadian national team, and that's it, I think, for the first half of the show, the first part of the show. So let's go ahead with part two, and your turn. And I think we're going with social media, right?
That was my game plan.
All right, so let's start the animation for social media.
So we did get a couple of questions to the pod this week. You did talk about Robbie's question earlier, but we did have a couple other questions. So I will just start our segment off with those questions. First, we had Patrick at P_Dubs13. He asked, what impresses you most about Montreal's performance Wednesday night? And I asked him, do we have to pick only one thing? But I'll let you go first because I have multiple choices. Because he does prefer that we pick something different.
Oh, okay. What impressed me the most? Joel Waterman. Again, I talked a lot about him this year on the show. For me, it's the best defender that we've had all year. Uh, the most consistent, and the one that really, glues everything together in the defense. We thought that it was going to be Rudy Camacho, and for me, no, it is Joel Waterman. He played as a right center back wonderfully, and now he's filling in for Kemal Muller as a left center back. And for me, he was immense in that game. He was really immense. And the second thing that I would say, and again, I talked about it a bit earlier, but last year Matko, what a game they had! Really, really interesting game from both players. If I'm able to see the same thing from Matko, are you okay, Eve?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
I just was having my every now and then because I'm wearing my Bluetooth, it kind of like weirdly disconnects.
Okay.
So I'm like, hello, hello. But I can hear you. We're good. Sorry about that.
Okay. No, it's okay. Yeah. So Matko, I think if he continues with the same mentality to always want to shoot first and ask questions later, I like that, and I think it's gonna build his confidence, and it's gonna make him a better player, because the vision of Matko is interesting. It's very interesting. It's very raw still. He needs to improve a lot on his vision, on his decision making, because he does have the vision in order to cover a lot of ground, but he needs to improve on his decision making. And by playing a bit more, by taking his chances when he wants, he's going to be able to choose which option is the best for him. So taking better decisions on the pitch. So that's maybe the couple of things that I really liked from Wilfried Nancy, and of course playing our game, keeping possession, playing our game. All things that I said already in the first part of the episode.
Yeah. And for me, I will say it looked like Mason Toy hadn't missed a match in 10 months. So I will say that it was a very successful return for him. And it was obvious that I think the coach and, the fitness staff and everybody had been working really tightly with him so that he fit in seamlessly with the team. Likewise, Kai Kamara's worked great in getting the balls to him for him to finish off. Especially, I think Kai Kamara does have a heavy touch, and, he is an old school MLS player in that regard. But nonetheless, he was able to win turnovers and things like that and create goals from them. As well, just the fact that Montreal they conceded poorly really early in the game, but they bounced back from that, and it was like they dusted off their shoulders, and it hadn't happened for the next 85 minutes of the game. So those were the things that impressed me the most.
Interesting.
Yeah. We also had a question from Joe Cortez, and he asks, given the current form, where do you expect them to finish in the season? First, second, or squeaks into the playoffs? So Joe doesn't even offer no playoffs question.
At the beginning of the season, I said that I see them in 8th or 9th position. Mm-hmm. I've been very surprised of what I've seen so far. I think they're going to squeeze in the playoff now. I'm okay to say that I was wrong maybe at the beginning of the season. I don't see them in the top 3. Mm-hmm. I don't see them in the top 5. I see them in 6th or 7th. Just because on the long run, I think that games are going to get harder and harder because the stakes are going to be higher and higher. So I think that Montreal lack of talent in some areas of the squad is unfortunately gonna be very challenging. So yeah, I would say 6th or 7th. What do you think, Eve?
I'm going to move up to your original position because I don't think everybody can stay as healthy as they are needed to for the duration of the season. I don't think Kai Kamara can start every game for the remainder of the season, and so on and so forth. So I think we'll have a narrow miss. I think we will get our hearts broken again.
Okay, what's really interesting, Joe, is that we both, decided to go to a more optimistic
Yeah,
view than what we
yeah,
had at the beginning of the
we
year.
have upgraded our
So
predictions.
so that's pretty interesting. And for Eve to say that, that's very positive. So we might finish
Yeah.
first.
Maybe if that infamous signing comes. All right. Right. Moving into social media, our first one is from Patrice Cloutier, who says it's time for Herdman to include Waterman on his next roster. He's been fantastic this year. Knowing that Daniil Henry is now on the move out of LAFC, do you think that that now that Daniil Henry is currently playing for Unattached FC, do you think that opens a door for Joel Waterman?
Oh, I don't think it's linked. In my opinion, it's just Waterman deserves it. It's as simple as that. It doesn't. It's for me. It's when we asked John Herdman about Henry being still included in the squad, not playing with LAFC, he said that it's very important in the dressing room. But at one point you have someone that's like maybe your fifth or sixth choice that's really, really performing, and it's if John Herdman is a good national team coach, he has to bring him because what more do you want from him? Like he can't he cannot do anything more than what he's doing right now.
No.
So if he continues on giving those kinds of performances, I think it would be stupid for John Herdman not to select him.
At least for the pre because there should be a September window, right?
Yeah.
At least for that to get consideration with the team.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, for me, it's important for him to be included. Now we don't know. We don't have the confirmation yet if for the World Cup we're gonna have 26 players or 23. So we're waiting on that confirmation. Do we have that confirmation, Eve? I didn't see it.
I thought we do.
Really? Is it going to be 26? We're not sure. I'm not sure anymore. So if it's 26, for me, Joel Waterman is in 26 for sure, 100%.
Yeah, it's correct. Yeah, it is.
FIFA it is confirmed.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So so he's going to be in the 26th.
Yeah, that was June 23rd.
Sure.
Yeah, we good.
Oh, the 23rd. So not 10 days ago. Okay, so yeah, I think that he's going to be in the national team for sure.
Dun, dun, dun. Alrighty then, next up. We have Rhonda Brownlee looking forward to the CONCACAF W Championship. And she says, and I love Rhonda. I think Rhonda and I share a brain. We might be hive minds. We need to lose the mentality of having one prolific goal scorer for the Canadian women's team. We need to build a team mentality that emphatically encourages all players to strike at the goal when a good opportunity presents itself.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting comment. I like that. Let's put it back here.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I read super fast.
No, it's okay. She's right. She's right. Yeah. We need to build a team mentality that encourages all players to strike at the goal. It's interesting because when I did when I wrote the article of with Evelyne Vian, and even when I talked to Beth Priestman a few times, and we said, how are you going to replace Christine Sinclair? The answer was as simple as we cannot replace that player, but we can replace it as a whole squad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that's not what's happening right now.
Yep.
I think that the players have to believe in their chances.
Yeah.
And not having Evelyne Vian again, I think I joined Jorge that said last week that he doesn't understand why she wasn't chosen. I joined him.
Something at camp must have not gone right. You know what I mean?
She said that she didn't seize her chance.
Well, she's definitely seized it with her club play. So something to me, something at camp is the like was she late to trade? I don't freaking know. Obviously, we won't know because the party line is she didn't seize her chance.
I think that she's gonna have her chance again. I'm pretty sure she's gonna have her chance again because I'm looking at the replacements, the players that Beth Priestman have chosen. in a striker's position.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked, guys, about joining Haidema and how you weren't convinced about her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that Chloe Lacasse showed much more than Evelyn Vian. So at one point, I don't understand how Chloe Lacasse proved that she deserves a squad and not Evelyn Vian.
Well, that's why I'm saying there's got to be more to the story. That's why I'm saying that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, but interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Next up, we have Tio Toto, and he is reacting emphatically to a tweet that kind of a little bit rocked, I believe, Canadian soccer Twitter by a gentleman. And the original tweet here is, all the talk is about MLS and Liga MX merging in some way. I'd argue American soccer has grown so much in the past decade that it's time to start considering cutting the Canadian MLS clubs loose. Canada and CPL soccer need them more to grow their own game.
I don't know what to answer to that, unless that he's, I'm sorry, but stupid.
I don't have
a better word. Do you have a better word? I don't want to make Gail unhappy. But I think stupid is the nicest word I can say.
It seems very small-minded, very close-minded. It's hard not to be
shocked.
Offended.
Yeah, I am. I'm very offended.
Whoops,
very
did I
offended.
put that back up, or did you?
Yeah, no, I put it back up because
I to subject us to it. Thanks.
Yeah, I just want people to still read it, because I'm still shocked by seeing someone that has some kind of pull and still be able to say rubbish like that. I don't know. You know what? If MLS takes that decision, I'll be offended, yes, but I think it's a good thing for Canadian soccer. I think it will be a good thing for CanPL to maybe grow. He's right, but I think it's a big loss for MLS.
Yeah,
very big loss.
I think maybe his point wasn't so bad. It's just the way it was phrased was pretty terrible.
Why wasn't it so bad for you?
No, like you said, as far as it would be beneficial for Canadian soccer if Canadian soccer had its own hardcore, fully robust professional league. And we're just in the very fledgling stages of that right now with CPL. But the way he worded it was basically we don't need these Canadian hangers on to the glory that is American soccer. Long live the bald eagle and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know if maybe his point was it would be good for Canadian soccer.
No, that's not his point.
Okay.
He's American.
I'm trying to be nice.
He's American. He's not Canadian.
It's their holiday tomorrow, Hady. I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah, but come on, man. Come on.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, either way, I echo Tio Toto's reaction of an emphatic no.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, we're gonna move on.
Yeah.
Next up, we have a tweet from Rudy Schuler. It says, it's July 1st. This was tweeted on July 1st. Which means the September international break is just over 2 months away. While rival World Cup-bound CONCACAF countries have already announced friendlies, Canada Soccer is still very quiet about the men's national team's next games. After the June window fiasco, this is not a good look.
Oh, I cannot agree more.
I'm It's becoming a very loud silence.
It's weird.
An elephant in the room again.
It's very weird because there's not a lot of teams left for friendlies, right? And you need to get the ball rolling. You need to make sure that you do the marketing things. Get people excited to go watch their national team. To have billboards, to have
conflict,
exactly. I think that Canada Soccer is really, they're being very cautious about the whole thing. We don't know what's happening also in the background. Is there some problems with the FIFA with everything that happened? Is there problems with the Iranian Federation? The Panamanian Federation also, because we've heard a lot of rumors saying that they're going to sue them. So we don't know what's going on in the background, but yeah, I think that the silence is very worrying, very, very worrying.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how to react other than yeah.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Last, certainly not least, we have Robert Pott, and he said, "Saucy of Montreal, it's an away fan for the first time. Said it's fun to be an away fan when we win. Nothing like being one of 20. Was there really 20 fans there in Seattle? I truly don't know. Yelling as the stadium goes quiet. Seattle, great stadium and fan base. All around, great place to watch a game. And Montreal's a really good team."
I agree. That I went to one away game and unfortunately we lost. But
Likewise, same.
exactly. So
I'm not.
so yeah, of course, winning away. I think winning at home, nothing beats winning at home.
No,
in my opinion.
Agreed.
But winning away has some sort of I would say bittersweet feeling about it, because not everybody's yelling and happy as you. But the sweet is that not everybody's yelling and happy as you. So it's kind of very conflicting.
In Toronto.
Huh?
If it happens in Toronto.
Oh, in Toronto, that's
it's
yeah,
spicy.
I would be ecstatic. Yeah, it is spicy. It is spicy. But last time we went to Toronto, we lost 4-0. So
that was I was gonna say we
Not
were
too long
talking about
ago.
LA Galaxy losing to Sacramento, and I'm like, we basically did the same thing.
yeah, we did worse. We did worse.
Yeah.
But at least we
Yeah.
played an MLS team, not a USL
They're not
team.
behaving much like an MLS team this year.
True. But yeah, no, Robert, very very nice for you to have watched that game in Seattle.
You
And
enjoyed.
it seems that he did. So hopefully it's not going to be a last away game, because it seems that you really like it a lot. So yeah, and hit us up next
Happy
time.
travels.
Maybe hit us up next time when you do an away game. We'll have you on the show maybe, and have a glimpse of the away the fan that goes away to watch their team.
An away victory.
Exactly.
It's a foreign concept for me.
So yeah,
Awesome. That's social media for you.
that's social media. Perfect. Okay, so you know what? Do we go for another segment? You think, Eve? Do you feel it?
Hady, you are in the driver's seat tonight. It's all up to you.
Perfect. So let's go for another segment
All right.
of Who Said That.
Okay.
So I'm gonna send the animation
Give me
right
2
away.
seconds. Yes, because I closed it. Just give me 2 seconds.
When the seagulls follow the trawler, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
So King Eric, as usual, to introduce that segment. I'll never grow tired of that sentence that he said in a press conference, where everybody was like laughing afterwards, because it seemed like a bunch of nonsense, but it wasn't. So so yeah, what are the quotes that we have today?
Alrighty, your first one. I'm gonna start you off with a softball. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, I just closed it again. Give me 2 seconds.
No worries. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have 0 as usual, because I'm not good at quotes. But
No
can't
worries.
wait to see. Can't wait to see what you prepared.
I do apologize. I closed my little unzip document, so it has to find itself again. There we go. All right. And I'll tell you what. I'll give you the choice of 3 if you need it, but I don't know if you're gonna need it.
Okay.
If you eat caviar every day, it's difficult to return to sausages.
Arsene Wenger.
Good job. He is okay, beyond a shadow of a doubt, he is one of my favorite for quotes.
Yeah. He is. He is very, very good. Really, like I love that coach, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I was an Arsenal fan in the Premier League for a long time. I always have a team that I choose in each league. I'm not a
Mm-hmm.
fan of Arsenal, but when I'm watching Premier League, that's the team I'm rooting for.
Mm.
Yeah, I haven't been very successful in the last few years, but yeah.
Yeah, alas. Sorry. But yeah, no, Arsene Wenger is but beyond a shadow of a doubt one of my favorite football quotes football quote I don't know specialists. All right. Next one for you is ready?
Yeah, I am
And
always
okay,
ready.
and again I'll give you the choice of three if you need it, and if you don't, you don't.
Okay.
I have used up all my credits. It is like playing Mario. I have one life remaining. I have to take care, but I will take on the challenge.
Oh wow. Yeah, I have a feeling I know who it is, but I'm gonna take the
Do you
three
want the choice of
guesses.
three?
Yeah.
Alrighty then. Um, it. Your three choices are Mario Balotelli, Hatem Ben Arfa, or Harry Novillo.
Balotelli.
Nope. It
Benafa?
was yeah,
Really? Oh, yeah.
really. Yes,
Okay.
it was from 2014. When he was actually, I think he was in the EPL if I'm not mistaken.
2014?
But yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Oh, he was with Newcastle and got loaned to Hull because, well,
okay.
unsurprisingly, he wasn't getting along with the coach.
Oh, wow. What a surprise. What a
I know, right?
surprise. No, he was transferred to Hull.
And
Yeah.
he might have ended up transferred, but he I think he went there on loan at some point.
Uh, yeah, and his Wikipedia page, he wasn't on loan. He was transferred. I'm not sure. But this guy could have been a Ballon d'Or player, but
He could
he's
have been,
just too
but his
stupid.
mind was not
Yeah.
there for it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yep. No, it was really sad. Alrighty, ready for the last one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Alrighty. We actually got the winner 3 minutes from the end, but then they equalized.
Oh, man.
I'm not gonna lie to you. There's a lot of bad math football
Yeah,
quotes out
I
there.
know. It seems. Listen, I'm gonna take the three choices, but I have an idea, and I'll tell you the idea after.
Okay. I don't know, because I kind of planned, like, with Sam being there, so, like, I kind of leaned toward a little bit of French and then, like, a little bit away from French, so
Yeah, it's okay.
I don't know if you'll know this one. So, your three choices are Ian McNeil, Sir Alex Ferguson, or Steven Gerrard.
I would say Ian McNeil.
You're correct.
Nice. Okay. Yeah,
Good job.
I was expecting Ian McNeil to be, but I was thinking it was Louis Van Gaal, to be honest. But,
Maybe he said it
because
too.
it's the kind of comment that he would say. But okay, interesting. Nice job, Eve.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. It was
You
really
are
interesting.
welcome.
I think
You are welcome.
I really liked it. Yeah.
Awesome.
So now I think that we have to wait for our game tomorrow against the Galaxy, and then of course next week is Saturday against Sporting Kansas City. I think next week. So that's it for today of the Bull is Round. Thanks a lot, Eve, for being here today with me.
Thank you, Hady, for leading our fearless team.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to give some a few words for the designer of our logo. We have a
Of
new
course.
logo. If people, I don't know if people have seen that. We have a new logo, and
Surprise.
I just want to thank Justine. That if you go on Twitter, you can go on JUMCLT. So she's the one that really did the logo for us. Really interesting. She's on Instagram on Design by Uj, so UJ, sorry, that's on Twitter. Sorry, and
Yeah.
on Instagram she's on design by UI underscore. So you can go check her work. Yeah, wow, it's very hard to say, but yeah, we'll put it on our Twitter feed, so you go
Yeah.
see the handles on Facebook, on Instagram, and also on Twitter. You'll see everything there. Thanks a lot for what you did. I hope you guys liked the new logo. I know that Eve and I and Sam were really happy about the look
Mm-hmm.
of it. So that's it. So that's it for us today. Thanks a lot, Eve, again. Thanks everybody for that have tuned in. Please give us our comments, share our pod, and if you have any questions, feel free to hit us up during the week. We'll make sure to answer them next week on another episode of The Ball is Round.